dark cloud still hangs over Solai village in Nakuru County as families of over 45 loved ones mourn those who have lost their lives in the tragedy earlier this week, and at least 35 others are being sought after as they are still unaccounted for. These are your top stories on NTV Weekend Edition.
Ndio tulienda kutafuta watoto yangu. Tukawatafuta tukaona watatu. Hata wa saa hii huyo mwingine hajapatikana.
Dada yangu ameniachia watoto 7. Ndugu yangu ameniachia watoto 7.
Patel Dam owner denies responsibility for the Solai tragedy that has left 45 dead and more missing, even as contrary evidence emerges.
Then we will take them to book, no matter who the individuals are.
What happened at Solai and who is responsible? The DPP has directed the police to investigate this and submit the report in 14 days.
Niambia anaenda kuleta mchanga hapa nyumbani kule kwa machine. Tusiaga, alafu ikifika Monday niende nilipe school fee.
Families of the deceased Nyatike miners say the government's delays cost their kin's lives. And there is no Ebola in Kenya, the Ministry of Health says, as it puts in place precautionary measures.
NTV Weekend Edition with Mark Masai.
And I'm also with David Agondor as our sign language interpreter tonight. And tonight, families of 45 people are mourning the loss of their loved ones, with others still choking in the grip of agony as their loved ones are still missing. One body was recovered today as search operations continued in Solai, Nakuru before afternoon rain hampered the operation. Families converged at morgues to identify bodies as the survivors camp at the Solai High School. Bridget Ngano will be bringing us that report in a moment. But what exactly went wrong? Owners of the ill-fated Patel Dam say they're not to blame for the death of more than 40 people and the destruction of property. The Patel Coffee Estate insists its dams are strong despite orders by the government to drain 2 of them today. The estate blames the heavy rains for the damage of the dam that caused death and destruction. Our team visited the farm and our reporter Sharon Baranga can confirm there are cracks on the other dam.
Visible cracks at the top of a wall of the Patel Dam in Solai, Nakuru County. The screaming threat here is easily masked by the silence in the atmosphere. But downhill, the deceiving calmness has no place. There is a mixture of loud and silent cries of pain and hopelessness of people who have lost their loved ones, property, and livelihoods as a result of the weakened dam breaking under the weight of excess water. The dam has been in existence since colonial times, and it is one among 6 at the Patel Coffee Estates. The estate has absolved themselves of fault while attributing the tragedy to forces of nature.
It happened because of the excess of rain from the Dunduri forest and the other places, where the excess of rain had brought lots of logs and boulders, and that's very short time. There was an intensity of the rain was very high. So it's been happening in last 2 days, and then when the boulders and the roots carrying the water, they get hit by the wall and the wall.
As a safety measure, dams of this size must have spillways that help drain excess water. But it seems this dam did not have efficient spillways, and so the walls of this dam gave way to the large volume of water. The glaring evidence of a compromised facility is not a new one and has only been brought to the focus of a wider audience by the Wednesday night tragedy. And this is not the only dam with a problem. A second dam, close to the one which collapsed, sports cracks on its walls, holding not just water but the potential to have caused double tragedy. It was only a matter of time before it gave in and took out more lives and property. With the alarm raised with the collapsed one, the government directed that this nearby dam and another one which is also close by should be drained. An official from Water Resources Management Authority who declined to speak on camera said that weaknesses on the now collapsed dam had previously been identified, with water seeping onto the road. This led the state body to demand that Patel Coffee Estate gets the problem fixed. This did not happen. Was this directive given as alleged?
I don't have to comment anything on that.
The exposed roots and ripped bark of these trees show the power and speed the water was moving from the dam down to the village. The open denial and non-committal response to such a grievous allegation of an even more openly visible problem may point to a larger problem. One that does not only put the farm's management on the spot, but also the government agencies that have allowed the dams to stay in use in their current state. Majority of the victims are among the farm's 1,500 employees. Sharon Baranga, NTV, in the county of Nakuru.
As the country awaits word from the head of state on the Solai tragedy, the Inspector General of Police, Joseph Boynet, has been ordered to investigate the cause of the Patel Dam burst in Solai. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Nurdin Haji, will be expecting a report in 2 weeks.
It's unacceptable that we could have such a tragedy. We have already lost 44, and I think even more. And if it is attributed towards poor workmanship, or if the individuals lacked the requisite licenses and permissions to have put such dams, then we'll take them to book, no matter who the individuals are.
To separate tragedy, the families of victims of Tuesday's mine collapse in Nyatike have faulted the county and national governments for the slow response to the tragedy. They believe that their kin could have been saved had the governments moved faster to clear the collapsed walls of the mines that trapped and eventually killed the 6 miners. Brenda Wanga reports on the painful realities the families are having to come to terms with.
A blank, heavy-hearted stare of dismay into an uncertain future. The widow of the late Joseph Otieno alongside her children keep vigil in their compound. In their dark collage of emotions and questions, they mourn the man they called husband and father, the sudden death still raw and painful.
Niambia anaenda kuleta mchanga hapa nyumbani kule kwa machine. Tusiaga alafu ikifika Monday niende nilipe school fee ya wale watoto. Kuna watoto 3 wanaenda kwa academy na school fees na wanataka school fees.
But that excursion to the belly of the ore-rich earth suddenly turned tragic when the rains weakened the tunnel walls of the Makalda mines, collapsing them and trapping Joseph and his 5 colleagues in what would turn out to be their unintended graves for hours on end.
Joseph alienda tu hivyo. Nilisikia tu ati hiyo simu mawe ilifonja.
Now the sole breadwinner in this family is gone and his dependents are still grappling with that reality.
Baba yangu alikuwa mtu humble kwa family. Hata kila siku alipotoka kazini alikuja tunafanya revision naye. Na alikaa akiniambia ya kwamba anataka niende Kangai school. Na kwa sasa ameshakufa. Sijui nani atanisomesha.
The death of their loved one is a hard and bitter pill to take in, and what makes it a more difficult swallow is that they believe the deaths were avoidable.
Because the time elapsed enough to save the lives. More so for these guys, that around the two guys, my brother and the other guy, who they were speaking until the last minute.
The burying alive of the 6 miners is the latest in what residents here say is a recurring situation.
The government raised a disaster management team which are well equipped and prepared to be in the environs to take care of our people as they do this kind of activity.
Many residents here in cases such as that of the late Joseph are educated but remain formally unemployed. The mines have for a long time been their main source of income. However, despite the life-threatening risks involved, they still turn to the killer mines to eke out a living, even just for their family's sake.
He was very special to us. Are you getting very well? Jamaa amesoma. Jamaa ana kazi. Ukienda kila mahali kutafuta jia huwezi pata.
The county government of Migori now says it will hold a mass funeral service for the deceased before their remains are released to the families for burial. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
And now to the families of at least 45 people who are mourning the loss of their loved ones, with others still choking in the grip of agony as their loved ones are still missing. One body was recovered today as search operations continued in Solai, Nakuru County. Before afternoon, rain hampered the operation. Families converged at morgues to identify bodies as a survivors camp at the Solai High School. Bridget Ngana takes us to some somber spaces of painful reality where heartbreaking stories are continually characterizing conversations, and the reality in Solai, which has now become the latest picture of multiple deaths, unimagined destruction, and sorrow beyond words.
The dark, painful smell of death coldly hangs in the somber atmosphere of the Nakuru County and hospital morgues. They were busy with all the darkness that accompanies the situation as relatives sought to identify their kin, inevitably having to face the fear of confirmation. It is the second day of the search and identification of missing persons from the aftermath of the collapse of the Patal Dam in Solai. Of the 45 bodies officially accounted for, 18 are yet to be claimed.
Tumempata kwa mochari, nyumba ilienda, lakini ilikuwa mkasa mbaya sana hiyo.
Nimempoteza baba na mtoto wa dadangu, na pia tumepoteza mji wetu hatuna. Tungeomba serikali venye yote itaweza kutusaidia. Kwa sasa hivi hatuna pahali ya kwenda kuweka maombolezi.
At the scene of the tragedy, the search, retrieval and recovery operations continue, with only one body being retrieved today. Joseph Gadhogo and his wife are fortunate to have survived the tragedy, but the couple lost all their 4 children on Wednesday night.
Na asubuhi ndio tulienda kutafuta watoto yangu. Tukatafuta, tukaona watatu. Hata wa saa hii huyo mwingine hajapatikana. Hata sasa ninashindwa, nilikuwa saa niende maili 10 kuangalia huyo mtoto.
Owing to the destruction and displacement, Solai Boys High School has been converted into the holding ground for the more than 100 families that were rendered homeless at Energy Village.
Dada yangu ameniachia watoto 7. Ndugu yangu ameniachia watoto 7. Nami nimebaki na yangu watoto 6. Hasa niko na wajukuu hao wawili. Msichana bado sijejua.
Aside from government aid, well-wishers also streamed in with basic supplies.
Together working with the Red Cross, we have come up with a pay bill number that will allow Kenyans from across the country to be able to contribute and help these families restore their lives and also start from somewhere. So in this connection, we have a pay bill whose number is 10,000 and the account name is Solai.
We've added that number of more personnel so that we can expedite the process to bring this operation to a close in the shortest time possible.
It's more than 24 hours since the waters of the dam at Patal Farm wreaked havoc and caused massive destruction here at Kwa Energy, but people have opened up their shops, and it's a sense of trying to move on from the tragedy and the heaviness. There's a lot of heaviness hanging in the air because the rescue and recovery operations are still ongoing, and there's a lot of uncertainty still in this area.
The agony of the family and friends of those unaccounted for carries on for at least another night. Bridget Ngana, NTV.
Our hearts go out to those in Solai. On to the crime beat now. The National Police Service is hunting for a terror suspect who is described as very dangerous. Anthony Mbele Munyasia, who goes by an alias Abdallah, is reported to be in the country to carry out a terror attack during the holy month of Ramadan. The police say the suspect entered the country in February and his Al-Shabaab counterparts were arrested in Isiolo County in January with explosives in their car. The police have identified the suspect as a Kenyan from Kitui County. Anyone with information should call the police hotline numbers on your screen. The court will decide next week whether to grant 5 men being sought by police anticipatory bail or not. The 5, Dishon Mulinge, Ronald Otieno, Michael Mbanya Wadhigo, Hussein Suleiman and Brian Shem Owino, are wanted by the police for allegedly robbing Nairobi businessman Timothy Murioki 100,000 shillings and assaulting him. The 5 claim that their personal security is at risk and fear they may be unprocedurally arrested and extrajudicially eliminated. Through their lawyer, the 5 claim that the police have already branded them as goons, attackers, rapists, thieves, and wanted criminals for robbery with violence and attach a bounty on each head. They have named DPP, IG, and the DCI as respondents in the case and say if required for questioning or investigations by the police, they should be questioned at CID headquarters or Mazingira House in the presence of their advocates. Furthermore, they want the court to summon the DCI and IG to personally appear in court to show cause in the event that the order is disobeyed. The 5 were captured on camera manhandling the former Nairobi Central Business District Association Chairman Timothy Muriuki at a Nairobi hotel 10 days ago. Already, Yala MP Simon Bogwa and 2 others have been arraigned over the same charges. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Nuruddin Haji, says his office will conduct an inquiry into how the Pastor James Nganga case was handled. The DPP assured Kenyans that an appeal has already been filed. He spoke during the final day of the multi-agency conference organized by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Melito Oletenges reports from Nanyuki.
The DPP has expressed his dissatisfaction with the acquittal of televangelist James Nganga, who had been accused of causing the death of Masai Njeri in a vehicular accident. Haji says his office has filed an appeal in court and a further probe will be done in regards to the case.
We were not satisfied. We have a lot of questions. And I think we're going to institute even more inquiry on how that particular judgment was made. But this is an issue that I'll pick up with the Chief Justice and the judiciary. It's a very sensitive matter, but it's a matter that we have to deal with decisively.
The DPP joins a list of high-ranking government officials who have conveyed displeasure in the handling of the case. Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i and Inspector General of Police raised their concerns over the acquittal case. The DPP also addressed the issue of delays in the delivery of justice, saying a consolidated effort involving all the relevant bodies is pertinent.
It's going to be key in ensuring that we don't experience the problems that we're experiencing in terms of delays and also compromising of cases and investigations. But this particular workshop here underlines the way forward.
Haji spoke during the final day of the multi-agency conference that brought together his office, EACC and the judiciary. The forum drafted a raft of recommendations.
The ODPP and the EACC will, as a matter of necessity, be engaging in what we call pre-trials, so that the moment somebody is charged in court, on the very first day, the Commission and the DPP will be ready to proceed with the trial.
The ODPP will be more involved. The Act provides for us to guide investigations, and we hope to be doing that a lot more, so that we have pre-trial conferences and thrash out a lot of the areas that could be trashed out even before the cases are brought to the judiciary.
During the workshop, Chief Justice David Maraga challenged EACC to present watertight corruption cases. Melita Oletenges, NTV, in Nanyuki, Laikipia County.
The government has promised to ensure sufficient supply of food and other items for the victims of floods in Tana River and Lamu counties until the end of the rain season. Coast Regional Coordinator Bernard Leparmarai, while on a tour of the 2 hard-hit areas in the region, said that the further assessment of the situation is ongoing to ensure support matches the situation.
Villages are still submerged in flood waters. Roads have been rendered impassable. Tana River County has now over 70% internally displaced people, further posing a humanitarian crisis. The county government has invested in boats to assist victims from their flooded villages to safer grounds and appealed to the national government to facilitate more boats for rescuing the stranded residents.
Hawa IDPs wapewe ardhi yao waishi hapa, pande ile ingine ikuwe ni mashamba, kwa sababu haiwezekani watu kila siku ni kuhama. Hii ardhi ni yao, kama wao hawakali nani atakalia?
The Coast Regional Coordinator Bernard Leparmarai has urged those who are still living in low-lying areas to move to higher grounds until the floods subside.
Tutapata shida wakati ambayo kuna hii floods ambayo inaendelea. Kwa hivyo nataka kuhakikishia mheshimiwa na viongozi wote na kina mama kwamba serikali kuu iko na nyinyi wakati hii.
Leparmarai expressed concern over the potential increase in waterborne disease and pneumonia among residents if the situation does not improve. The residents, however, urged the national government to work on the road network as some of the affected areas have been completely cut off. Haile Magongo, NTV.
It's 20 minutes past the hour. You're watching NTV Weekend Edition, and we will have, that is David Agondor and I will be back with more, including there is no Ebola in Kenya, Ministry of Health says, as it puts in place precautionary measures.
Aye.
Welcome back. The government has allayed fears that the Ebola outbreak in Congo could spread into the country. Health Cabinet Secretary Cicely Kariuki says that some 260 health workers are on standby as the government tightens precautionary measures to ensure the virus does not spread into the country. All travelers entering the country through the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, Busia and Malaba border points will be screened.
Following fresh outbreak of Ebola in the DRC, the Ministry of Health has commenced screening of travelers at all border points. Speaking during an official tour of the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, Health Cabinet Minister Cicely Kariuki said the government has put enough measures not just at the national level but also in the counties. The CS was accompanied by her counterpart in charge of tourism, Najib Balala.
We have strengthened the routine screening of travelers at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, where we are this morning. We have also strengthened our routine screening in Busia, Malaba, Namanga, Wilson Airport, as well as all other entry points into the country, totaling 43.
Thermal guns, handgun thermal scanners and their support systems have also been installed at the entry points to detect travelers with abnormally high body temperature. Furthermore, an isolation site has been set up at the airport to deal with any case that may arise.
That's why we have targeted those flights that there'll be stringent health check, but again with a lot of gentle, and they feel the data is monitored. So if you are suspect, whatever the word you can use, then action is taken instantly. But if we feel you have just a fever, there's also a clinic within the airport that addresses those issues.
The vitals taken require for us to do further monitoring and screening. Dr. Kefa and the team here will be available with the qualified teams to further investigate. If it so warrants, then we also have an isolation space in Kenyatta National Hospital where then we would move these persons.
Health workers have also been deployed at all the entry points.
The word is precaution. Precaution, 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 not a crisis being managed. We have a team which is on standby, composed of 260 officers, health officers, who would normally be called to any emergency situation. We have deployed 100 of them here.
The Ministry of Health has also formed a National Emergency Council in efforts to prevent any importation of the disease into the country. So far, 18 people have died in northwest DRC from Ebola since December. Rozongoi, NTV.
Now to county administrative concerns in the Nairobi, Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko has admitted to poor service delivery in the capital, but blames it on corruption and inherited challenges. The sorry state of the roads and drainage systems, whose eyesore state he has acknowledged is further being exposed and made worse by the ongoing rains. Governor Sonko, in yet another defense of his leadership, says unscrupulous suppliers are using the courts to shield themselves as they illegitimately siphon taxpayers' monies.
Potholes in their varying sizes and other forms of damaged roads have found a canvas on a number of roads in the county of Nairobi. The rains are only serving to make the situation worse. City residents continue to point an accusing finger at the county government, accusing it of laxity. Nairobi Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko remains defensive of his leadership even as he, Friday afternoon, acknowledged the challenges in the capital.
Tunajua kuna shida, barabara ni mbaya, drainage ni mbaya, but nimekuwa nikisema ufisadi bado unaturegesha nyuma. Hakuna vile tunaweza fanya kazi na pesa ya maendeleo inaibiwa.
Sonko claims that frauds masquerading as county suppliers have turned to the courts to claim payment for services not rendered.
Kuna mwingine alikuwa na oda ya shilingi milioni 800. Tulipokuja kotini, just kwa mention moja, kupewa milioni 800 haikuwa sawa. Ikarejeshwa chini to 1.3 million. Na alikuwa tayari ashaiba 60 million. Leo huyu mtu tayari ashalipwa 15 million. Part 1 kabla nikuwe governor. Juzi kinyume yangu wakaenda tena wakapata oda nyingine ya kulipa 75 million. Kwa hivyo leo nashukuru mahakama, nashukuru wakili wangu kwa hii kesi Harrison Kinyanjui. Tumekimbia hapa na mahakama imetusikiza, imesimamisha hiyo oda wakati wako kwa counter wakingoja kutoa hii pesa.
The county has been a host to a cocktail of eyesores ranging from uncollected garbage to bad roads, blocked drainage, and more. Residents have expressed discontentment with the work their taxes are delivering, setting the stage for questions on Sonko's capability of running the county.
The state of the roads in Nairobi City County, the state of the drainage in Nairobi City County was not created by Sonko. I found hii pesa mabarabara imeliwa. My first budget inaanza June.
The governor says he is aware of a deliberate attempt to swindle the county from within and has put all stakeholders on notice.
The Director of Legal Affairs is at large. A warrant of her arrest has been issued and she's still at large and we are looking for her and she must face the law.
The county government has formed a pending bill committee led by PLO Lumumba. All those who claim to be owed by the county have been urged to submit it to the committee for scrutiny and potential settlement. Gladys Gashanja, NTV.
NASA leader Raila Odinga this morning held a closed-door meeting with Nairobi, Gikuyu, Embu and Meru Association small business community at a Nairobi hotel. Just after the meeting, Raila, who did not address the media, said through his Twitter handle that he briefed the team on the handshake with President Uhuru Kenyatta. The group pledged to champion the handshake agenda at the grassroots level. Odinga's meeting with Gema could spark yet another political controversy, given most of the region's leaders in the recent past have declared unwavering support to DP Ruto ahead of 2022. The Orange Democratic Movement has new office holders, with perceived rebels being kicked out of leadership and other office holders demoted. The Registrar of Political Parties has gazetted the new names submitted by ODM, who will either take over or replace the ones who've since been removed by the party. Former legislator and cabinet minister Paul Otuoma and Eldas Member of Parliament Aden Canaan ceased to be the vice chairpersons. Their positions have been taken over by Janet Ongera, the Kisii County Women Representative, and Undanyi MP Thomas Mwadegu. Nominated Senator Agnes Zani has been replaced by lawyer Edwin Sifuna as the party Secretary General. Zani, now the Vice Secretary General, will replace Elizabeth Ongoro, who unsuccessfully ran for Ruaraka constituency on an ANC ticket after ditching ODM. Former Taita Taveta Woman Representative Joyce Lay has been replaced by the current Nairobi Woman Representative Esther Passaris as the Secretary for International Affairs. Homa Bay Women Representative Gladys Wanga takes over from Undanyi MP Thomas Mwadegu as the Secretary for Parliamentary Affairs in the National Assembly. James Orengo replaces Kisii County Women Representative Janet Ongera as the Secretary for Parliamentary Affairs in the Senate. Steve Mbogo, who unsuccessfully ran for Starehe MP, replaces Dr. Noah Akala as the Secretary for Science and Technology, while Akala moves to the position of Deputy Director of Campaigns. Sirisia MP John Waluke has been replaced by Shinyalu MP Justus Kizito as the Secretary for National Security. Nixon Kakiri replaces nominated Senator Isaac Maura as the Secretary for Disability Affairs. We're taking another break, after which there will be no changes. It'll still be I and David Agondo. Stay with us.
Good evening and welcome to NTV Business. I'm Dan Mwangi. Now, it's just a 10-centimeter sided cube, but the magnitude of today's launch of Kenya's first ever nano satellite is an event of monumental proportions. The satellite was launched from the Kibo Mission Control at the Tsukuba Space Center in Tokyo, Japan, in a live event which was keenly monitored from the University of Nairobi. Now, let's do this. Let's give Alex Mwangi some space to tell us more about space matters.
10, 9, 8, 7.
At exactly 1:30 p.m. local time in Kenya,
3, 2, 1.
Kenya's first ever nano satellite was launched from Kibo, the only platform available currently to deploy CubeSats from the International Space Station. It was launched simultaneously with Costa Rica's CubeSat.
Please join me in conveying warm greetings to astronaut Norishige Kanai, who has deployed the first Kenyan nano satellite into orbit. I'm encouraged that this venture by the scientists from the University of Nairobi is the beginning of an inspirational journey for Kenyans into the study of space science, related technologies, and innovations for the development of our economy.
Such technology comes handy because of monitoring. You are able to monitor and see what is happening within the environment. Those dams could have been picked very easily by satellite data.
We expect to get images which we can use to interpret, to manage the weather, like the DVC has said, to manage the environment, to manage disasters, food security, and we also expect to get audio information, which we can use for communication purposes.
The CubeSat goes round the Earth once every 90 minutes, which means that it makes 16 orbits of the Earth every 24 hours. Assuming you're a passenger on it, you will travel through 16 sunrises and sunsets within a 24-hour period.
Now satellites fly over the almost 400 kilometers above the ground. It's very far. It's almost 9 kilometers per second. So very quick, very fast, yes.
To put into perspective the speed of the Kenyan CubeSat, which is currently orbiting the Earth at 9 kilometers per second, it will take about 55 seconds for it to travel between Nairobi and Mombasa, a distance of approximately 500 kilometers.
We expect the satellite to remain in orbit for 1 year, and then it is going to deorbit. It will just be debris now.
Exactly 10 minutes later, Turkey's CubeSat was also deployed. Almost 30 countries have deployed CubeSats from the Japanese Kibo module on the ISS. The Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency, JAXA, has provided the bulk of the funding for the 120 million shilling project. JAXA launched the KiboCube program in collaboration with the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs in 2015.
20 seconds. Let's make history.
Alex Mwangi, NTV.
The Kenya Revenue Authority has won a case at the Court of Appeal on the use of the Excise Goods Management System, EGMS. In an earlier judgment, KRA had been prevented from expanding the system to cover soft drinks, bottled water, and cosmetics. KRA has engaged the services of Swiss firm SICPA or SICPA to put labels on some of the accessible goods in the market in order to prevent illegal trading and counterfeiting by unscrupulous manufacturers. The ruling empowers KRA to expand the usage of new generation excise stamps and by doing so, protect legitimate manufacturers from unfair competition, hence increasing revenue collection. Members of the County Assembly in the